Hi, I'm David Kelley, President and CEO of Chakana Copper. Thanks for joining us today at the NobleCon17 conference. We have a very exciting discovery story to tell you about that we've made in Peru. I'm going to give you a general overview of the company and the project and its location, and then finish with some exciting upside exploration opportunities that we have on the project. I will be making some forward-looking statements, so please be forewarned about that. When investing in a junior mining company, it's really critical to assess very thoroughly all aspects of the company. And I've listed here really the four critical things for me in terms of what I look for when I evaluate a company. Obviously, you got to have a strong management team that has a proven track record. I will talk about that. We have some exceptional experienced, talented management in Chakana. A strong capital structure. We're fortunate to have Gold Fields, the 7th largest gold producer in the world, as a cornerstone investor. They love the project. They are very excited about the discovery we made, and they see huge upside potential. You have to be in a good location, and Peru for me is a great mining destination. It's a mining country. First and foremost, they support mining. It's a big part of their economy. And even within Peru, we're in an active mining district. We're not far from some world-class mines. So this discovery is really considered a brownfields discovery. It's in an active mining district with many, many deposits in the region. And then you have to have the asset. And the Soledad Project for us is a really exciting discovery. It's high-grade copper, gold, and silver. It's somewhat rare to find all three metals together in the kind of grades that we're finding these. Our mineralization is hosted in breccia pipes or tourmaline breccia pipes. They're numerous. They're vertically extensive. They're all the discoveries we've made to depth are open, or so far are open at depth. So there's quite a bit of upside potential just in the breccia pipes we found so far, and we have 92 targets on the property, so there's still a long way to go to see what the ultimate potential of this new discovery is. We have a very aggressive program right now that we started in August of last year. It's ongoing. We've already announced 3 new discoveries in this drilling, and I'm sure that's going to continue with future drilling. This is a project that's really set up for development. It's a small footprint, it's high grade, it's in an active mining district, it has great infrastructure, and these are the kind of projects you look for that can be fast-tracked into a production timeline. A slide on our share structure. We have 93 million shares outstanding. Our share structure is shown on the left. You can see that management and insiders hold about the same percentage as Gold Fields, right at about 17–18%. We have a very strong institutional shareholder base with Osisco, Sprott Asset Management, US Global. A notable investor, Rick Rule, joined Chakana this past summer with an investment. So we have some very notable names in our shareholder structure, and we think that's an attribute or credit to the work that we've been doing. Our cash standing right now is about 3.3 million, which is enough cash on hand to get us through the current drilling program that we're executing now. Now, our management team, we have 5 board members. 3 of the board members are exploration geologists. Our chairman is Doug Kerwin, a well-known, very successful discoverer in our industry. Doug is also an expert in these tourmaline breccia pipes, and his insight has really been important in getting us focused on that specific aspect of this project. John Black is a very successful economic geologist as well. He's the CEO of Regulus and Aldebaran, and previously he was the CEO of Antares. That made the Hakira discovery in southern Peru, and they divested that asset to First Quantum for 650 million Canadian. So John's already been through that process. It's really the basis of our strategy. Make a discovery, de-risk the asset, get it ready for development, and divest that to a developer to come in. Peru is a great mining jurisdiction, as I mentioned. This is a map that shows the mineral belts of Peru, and it's just showing some of the very notable large giant deposits in Peru that are in the Miocene belt. It's the age of the rocks that we're exploring. We're just south of the Purina mine, a world-class gold mine operated by Barrick, and we're 65 kilometers to the west of Antamina, the largest open pit mine in Peru. The endowment in Peru is exceptional. The mineral discovery rate is one of the highest in the world, and it's one of the reasons that Peru is a preferred destination for foreign investment in mining and exploration. Peru currently ranks as the #2 global copper producer, and that's on the increase. It's also the largest gold producer in Latin America, and it's the 5th largest destination for foreign capital in the mining industry, and that's a pretty impressive position when you looked at the top 4 is Canada, US, Australia, and Chile. The mining industry makes up a very significant part of the GDP of Peru, and never more so than now with the COVID pandemic that's affected the entire world. Mining has been a catalyst for restarting the economy in Peru. The copper fundamentals, the macro story about copper is really excellent. When we put Chakana together, we were focused on copper. We knew that the tourmaline breccia pipes were often copper rich. What we didn't appreciate was how rich in precious metals the Soledad project was, and it wasn't really until we started drilling that we realized that some of the breccia pipes are 70% value sits in gold and silver, and the 30% sits in copper, even though the grade of the copper mineralization is at around 1%. So it's quite considerable. But copper has a great fundamental story. It is predicted to have a very significant supply gap, and that's resulting from a number of different reasons. There has been underinvestment in copper exploration over the last several decades globally, and that's resulted in a pipeline that's pretty thin with few quality projects. At the same time, that demand is increasing. So you can see the forecast by 2 different groups there in the graphs on the right. They both basically predict the same thing, that there is a looming supply gap that's going to be brought upon us. And that's even before you consider all the impact that green energy systems and the expansion of electric vehicles, electrification is going to have on this. It's going to put even greater demand on this. So we think that the copper fundamentals are really exceptional. Like everyone, we had to respond to COVID-19. Peru has been hit very hard by COVID-19. They've tried to cope with the situation as best they could. Initially, there was a mandatory lockdown. Basically, all industries ceased to operate. And, we took time to go back and plan the rest of our field season. We had a lot of data to work with, and we also had a really important permit that we were working on. And fortunately for us, we were able to get that permit in July of 2020, last year, during the pandemic, and that allowed us to move forward with planning the drill program, which was subsequently initiated August 15th. And since that time, we've drilled about 6,600 meters. We've made 3 new discoveries, all of which have been announced in our news releases. And we're really excited because that amount of drilling and the success we've had there is added to the previous discoveries we've made. And we're now up to 7 mineralized breccia pipes, all of which will be featured into the maiden resource for the Soledad project that we will have out this year. Our land map is shown on the right there. The black outline shows the ground that we control. We have a pathway through option agreements to have 100% ownership and all of the land shown within the black outline. The different colors show underlying mineral rights holders. We started in the north where the blue ground is shown. That's where we already had an active drill permit, and we were able to start drilling right away after we acquired the property in 2017. The permit I just mentioned, the one that we received in July, gives us access to that pink zone. And you can see all the symbols there. All the circles represent known tourmaline breccia pipes. The stars represent targets that we think are the expression of blind breccia pipes. And we've already found a blind breccia pipe in our drilling. So we know exactly what these look like from the standpoint of the alteration, the surrounding alteration around the breccia pipe. We are actively drilling in the pink area now, and we'll be expanding our drill program within that area, and then ultimately we'll be expanding to the south, where we have identified a number of additional tourmaline breccia pipes to the south. If you look at the breccia pipe we've done the most drilling on, that's breccia pipe 1, and we've drilled 52 holes in that breccia pipe. If you put all of the mineralized intervals together in that breccia pipe, which goes down to about 490 meters depth from surface, the mineralization starts at surface and it's open at depth, the average copper equivalent grade is about 2.9% copper equivalent, or 4.4 grams gold equivalent. So you can see when we say high grade, we have some really exceptional examples of that. This is a table that just lists some select drill holes from the first 4 discoveries we made, breccias 1, 5, 6, and 7. You can see the gold grades are commonly kind of in the 1 to 2 gram range. At breccia 1, they're higher grade, as I mentioned, up to 4 grams is common over significant intervals. Copper grades often in the 0.7 to 1% range, and then silver is variable. We often get 30 to 60 grams silver in our drill intercepts, but we have some quite exceptional high numbers. Breccia pipe 6 and 7 in particular seem to be more silver rich. It's probably related to overall zoning in the district, and then we get some vertical zonation as well. In general, as we go deeper, the copper grade gets stronger and the gold and silver grade drop off, but they're still significant, and we think that they'll feature well in the economic evaluation of the resource once we get that put together. Similar table, but just with the last 3 discoveries we've made, Paloma East, Paloma West, and Wancrama. Again, really the same story. We're getting really excellent grades for gold, silver, and copper. Paloma West, we really had some spectacular grades, some of the highest grades reported to date on the property. You can see there's a 42-meter intercept with 1.87 grams gold, 84 grams silver, and 2.15% copper. Really spectacular mineralization. You can see 2 examples of the rock, of the drill core, mineralized drill core on the right. Breccia is simply a word that means a rock that's made up of fragments of other rocks. So it's a fragmental rock. It has class, and it has matrix, and oftentimes the matrix of the breccia is where the mineralization is hosted. And you can see in the core photo on the left, all of that shiny metallic material are different minerals, mostly chalcopyrite, which is the copper mineral, and pyrite, and that's cementing the breccia. It's basically just gluing the breccia together with the sulfide minerals. On the right is a different style of mineralization. We have this very impressive late copper replacement event that completely wipes out the rock. It preserves the texture of the rock, so you can still see that it's a breccia, but it's replacing the class, and in some places we have even massive sulfide developed where it's replaced the entire rock. On the left is a diagram showing what the geometry of the breccia pipes look like. They're basically vertical columns of breccia that are mineralized. You can see there's the north zone and the main zone. The north zone is a blind breccia pipe immediately adjacent to the outcropping main zone that we discovered, or that we first drilled. And the blue level plans in there show a really important aspect about these breccia pipes. These breccia pipes get bigger at depth. It's the function of how they form. These are not diatreme breccias. They're not volcanic features that erupted at surface and blew out most of their metal budget. They're vertical pipes that were contained inside the crust. So there were still probably maybe 2 kilometers of lithic rock above the top of the breccia pipe, and because of that, the breccia pipes actually come to a point. They're shaped like a Christmas tree, or sometimes we use the analogy of an inverted carrot, but they get bigger at depth, and we've proven that several times with our drilling of the different breccia pipes. The initial phases of drilling in 2017 to 2019 focused on the top part of the hill here where the red circles are, and you can see breccia 1, 5, 6, and 7. Those are all breccia pipes that will feature in the initial resource. The most recent drilling we've been doing is lower down on the hill, Paloma East, Paloma West, and now we're drilling at the Wancrama breccia complex, all 3 new discoveries. This view of the north half of the property, it's not even showing the south half where we have multiple other targets and breccia pipes, shows some really important aspects. First of all, there's an operating lead zinc silver mine immediately adjacent to it. Again, that speaks to the infrastructure. There's grid power here. That mine, operated by a private Peruvian mining company, operates that mine on grid power. There's plentiful water. You can even see a water reservoir on the top right of that diagram. And there's great road access. There's public road access. In fact, that goes right in front of our project. So the infrastructure is outstanding. You can also see the elevation relief. It's about 500 to 600 meters from the bottom of the valley to the very top. And it's a gradual slope going up. And that's a great aspect for developing a mine. The fact that you've got these vertical high-grade ore bodies going straight down that crop out at surface, but you can access those by driving adits or tunnels into the hillside at various elevations. So the possibility of having multiple breccia pipes in production at the same time using integrated underground mining infrastructure, it presents itself with this type of deposit. The other nice aspect is we're seeing at Paloma, in the Paloma area, in the Juan Carama area, we're getting broad zones of mineralization right at and near surface. So when you have that kind of extensive mineralization, you can start thinking about the possibility of open pit mining and whether or not you might be able to have a combination of different mining methods that would be optimized for the profitability of the operation. I mentioned that Paloma East and West are two new discoveries. You can see that in this map. The map on the left is a plan view showing the two breccias on each side of a very important and prominent geophysical anomaly. The scale of this breccia system is quite impressive. Paloma East, if you look at the cross-section on the right, it initially started out as just a 25-meter diameter breccia body. Very good gold grades right at surface. We knew it was mineralized. But as we started drilling it, the breccia pipe did exactly what I mentioned earlier. It turned into a shape that's more like a Christmas tree or an inverted carrot. And we've only put 7 holes in it at this point, but we've got extensive breccia. We've got hundreds of meters of mineralization. You can see a couple of intercepts there, 226 meters of 0.34 gold, 0.35 copper, and almost 17 grams silver. Lower grade overall, but within that we do see some nice high grade, and it's that high grade that we know we can chase because the high grade relates to fluid pathways within the breccia. It's where the breccia was most permeable, and once we get onto those fluid pathways, we can chase those out, and we've done it many times with our drilling. Paloma West, as I mentioned, is the very high grade breccia. We've only drilled it down to about 150 meters from surface so far, but we've got the geometry defined well enough. It's plunging back towards Paloma East. We do expect that those breccia bodies will coalesce into one much larger breccia system and probably centered on that geophysical anomaly that you see on the left. Again, some very impressive rock photos here from drill core. This is Paloma East. All of the gold metallic mineral is chalcopyrite. It's the dominant form that the copper forms in. This is Paloma West. Again, cemented breccia, so the sulfide is in the matrix, but you also see that really impressive, very high grade copper replacement event that's completely replacing the class within the breccia. Just to go back to this diagram, we're going to talk now about the Juan Carama breccia complex at the bottom or the base of the hill. This is one that we were really excited about from the very beginning because of the physical footprint at surface. It's already 200 meters across in terms of the distribution of the breccia bodies we've mapped at surface and we've sampled. There's an old historic working that goes through the breccia system, and we were able to get into that and look at not only the nature of the breccia mineralization, but also the quality of the rock from a geotechnical standpoint for future underground mining considerations in the wall rock and in the breccia, and that's a really important aspect of the project. It has really excellent geotechnical characteristics. All of the magenta symbols there are rock samples or channeled samples at surface that have greater than 1 gram per ton gold all the way up to 9.6 grams. This is a drone image just looking at Juan Carama. You can see very prominent breccias, H1 through H5. There's a very distinct collapse zone. We think that's from an old previous mining that was done perhaps in as early as the 20s or 30s, but we've seen that with our drilling that we get really good high-grade zones in and around that collapse zone. So we know it's a really important feature. This is the model. This data was just published last week. You can see on the left, again, a plan view, but the red footprint there is the footprint of the breccia system defined by the first 8 drill holes and that cross cutter, that tunnel that goes through the breccia body. You can see already it has a footprint of about 100 meters by 50, and we haven't even moved over and started exploring the western half of the breccia complex. So we think there's considerable upside there. There's a leapfrog model, a 3-dimensional model showing what the shape of the model looks like. The 2 prominent breccia pipes coming to surface, that connected depth, and then that is open at depth. So we have a lot more drilling to do here. But again, really spectacular mineralization, somewhat similar to the rocks I just showed you for Paloma East, except we're actually seeing some massive sulfide development here. You can see it in the upper right photo and the lower left photo. And when you start getting zones of massive sulfide developed with predominantly chalcopyrite mineral, you can really generate some really spectacular grades. This is the late copper event I mentioned. We see it often in the breccia pipes, but the 2 core boxes on the bottom it illustrates some of the upside potential in this project. This is the late copper event happening outside the breccia pipes. Okay, this is in the host rock, and we get zones again where we get massive sulfide development. There's 5.5 meters of core on the right there, 4.6 grams gold, 5.3% copper, and 275 grams silver, and a similar very high grade intercept in the same rock, just not quite as intensely replaced, but that's 30 meters apart. And this is a type of mineralization we haven't even chased yet. We do get asked a lot about the porphyry potential at Soledad. There are geologists that believe that there is porphyry potential here. It's somewhat controversial. Our chairman, Doug Kerwin, does not think this is a porphyry-related system, but we do keep track of these veins because veins are really important in deciphering the potential of a mineral system if it's related to a porphyry. And we see veins like this that we're keeping track of. It's not the focus of what we're doing. We're staying focused on these tourmaline breccia pipes, but we always have to be mindful of really what's the heat engine underneath that's driving this big system. We also get asked a lot about the mineability. Again, we've got topography working in our favor here. So we can drift in at any elevation to get access to a breccia pipe. With as little as 250 meters of underground development, you can have a working face on a breccia pipe. You can do that on multiple levels in the same breccia pipe, or you can attack different breccia pipes and have production coming from a number of different producing phases. The mining method is sub-level mining. That's a standard conventional mining method used in the industry around the world. It's used in Peru. It's a very fast, it's a mining technique that allows you to upscale quite considerably, and the fact that you can mine multiple breccia pipes at the same time gives quite a bit of flexibility and optionality to a project like this. So I'll just wrap this up now before we get Mark back on to take some questions. But again, just to reemphasize, our management team has the experience. Our view was to put together a company that could go after what we felt could be a new important discovery, and we've done that. We did not want to be a project generator where we had multiple projects to manage and try to get other people to spend money on our project. We wanted to put the experience that we brought collectively to the table to identify the best project and then go after that aggressively. If you invest in Chakana, you do get exposure to the great copper story, but you also get significant exposure to gold and silver. And it's one of the reasons I think that we've attracted such a quality cornerstone investor in a company like Goldfields. In terms of the upside potential, we've already identified 23 breccia pipes. We've drilled 1 blind breccia pipe fortuitously just in drilling out another breccia pipe. And we have over 92 targets on the property defined from a multitude of different exploration data sets, from geochemistry to geophysics to alteration mapping to Landsat imagery, that type of thing. So it's been a very thorough, systematic approach to the exploration here. We're already about halfway done through the very aggressive 15,000 meter, and we plan to expand that. We just approved a very aggressive drill budget for 2021, and we'll continue with our aggressive exploration on the project as we go forward. So Mark, I think I'll leave it there, and we'll just open it up to some questions.
Thank you, David. I'm Mark Reichman, the Senior Research Analyst who covers metals and mining at Noble Capital Markets. I want to remind our viewers that if you have a question, please click on the icon in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and type in your question. So the first question is, based on the excellent results to date, do you see an opportunity to further accelerate and or expand the drill program for both resource and exploration drilling?
Well, yeah, absolutely, Mark. I mean, you know, we've got 3 new discoveries that need to be drilled out: Paloma East, Paloma West, and Juan Carama. I mentioned breccia 7. Breccia 7 has 4 drill holes in it. It's mineralized. Kind of the strategy we use with drilling is we start off with scout drilling. It's anywhere from 4 to 10 drill holes in a target to see, is it mineralized? Does it have indications of high grade? And can we get some general sense of the geometry? Does it look like it's a geometry that has good continuity into it? Perhaps the footprint is something that we think could be significant. And once we've answered those questions, then we move on, because we want to spread our drilling meters out to test as many targets as possible. And already we have breccia 7 that needs to be drilled out, breccia, the Juan Carama breccia on the east side. We're still exploring the west side, and Paloma East and Paloma West. So there's probably about 16,000 meters of drilling that needs to be done right there. And then with the targets I mentioned, you know, the 92 targets on the property, we've got a multitude of targets in that northern and central part of the project area that need to be tested. So yes, we plan to be very aggressive with our drilling.
So just looking at Paloma East, West, and Juan Carama, how would you kind of compare and contrast those areas in terms of, you know, similarities and differences, and maybe kind of the key takeaways from the drilling to date?
You mean similarities and differences between the other pipes, or
just in your drilling results?
Yeah, well, I would say the style of mineralization is very similar. What we really like, and you know, what has us excited, not only ourselves but also Goldfields, is that, you know, the scale of the breccia system at Paloma and at Juan Carama potentially could be big enough that it could be mined by open pit methods. You know, underground mining costs are typically in the $40 per ton range. Open pit mining costs are often in the $4 per ton you know, cost range. So, you know, there's an order of magnitude difference in the cost structure between open pit mining and underground mining. So it's a great attribute to have when you've got grades high enough to support underground mining, but you've also got the potential to develop open pit for initial starter pits. You know, what I would envision is the possibility that you might have a starter pit that takes out the mineralization near surface to a point that you then go underground. And, you know, there's a lot of benefit to having that kind of optionality in your project. So, you know, Juan Carama and Paloma potentially could have these starter pits. The other breccia pipes potentially could develop into that with more exploration. Like I mentioned, when we were exploring breccia pipe 1, we let one drill hole just continue for a little ways, and it clipped 13 meters of 12% copper equivalent in the very top of the blind north pipe at breccia 1. So, you know, as we continue to drill, we continue to see this potential out there that, you know, is not readily obvious at you know, from the surface.
Well, a question just came in. How much influence does Goldfields have on your exploration activities?
Well, we have an advisory panel that's made up of their several people, from mostly technical people from their team. They often bring in specialists. They'll bring in a resource geologist. They brought in mining engineers, metallurgists, geophysicists, and we meet monthly, and we go through the results and talk about the plans and that type of thing. And they express, you know, their views. I guess I should first say, one of the reasons we love working with Goldfields is their view of the project is very compatible with ours. They love what we're doing with the breccia pipes. They are not fazed at all by the possibility of underground mining. They're excellent underground miners. They started their company on underground mining. So we're right in line with that. But they also see the upside potential, and they see this as having the potential to become a tier 1 asset. But at the same time, it doesn't have to become a tier 1 asset before it becomes a very significant asset. So they already have a team in Peru. They're mining the Cerro Corona mine. It has a mine life, I think, of about 6 or 7 years. So they would love to get another project that they could develop. But they have a lot of input. We make sure that their voice is heard, and we, because of the compatibility with our view of the project and theirs, it's been a very good relationship so far.
Okay, well, the next one's kind of a two-parter. The first is how would you define a tier 1 asset? I think in response to your last comment.
Yeah.
And then when will you publish a maiden resource estimate, and how many breccia pipes will it reflect?
Well, I'll take the second one first. We plan to put breccia 1, 5, 6, 7, and Paloma East, Paloma West, and Huancarama into the first resource estimate. And, because the last 3 have just been recently announced discoveries, then, that's where we've got to really ramp up the drilling and get the infill drilling and get another rig back up to 7 to finish that off. But our plan is to have 7 breccia pipes in the initial resource, and that's only going to be down to about 3 to 350 meters depth. That's really the depth that you can drill enough drill density within the mineralized area to put together an inferred resource. Beyond that, I mean, you can drill deeper than that, but to drill at a density within these breccia pipes to give you confidence in a resource estimate, it's going to be a lot easier to do that from underground. So one of the programs we have for this year is to start the underground permitting on the known discoveries that we've already made, because our view is that we've got mineralized breccia down to 800 meters at breccia 6. We've drilled 490 meters at breccia 1. Mineralized breccia is still wide open. So our view is if we can go underground and drill from that 300 to 600 meter range, then that's an obvious opportunity right there to double whatever resource we come up with first. We have the potential of doubling it by simply going underground. We don't have to find anything new. We just have to continue drilling out what we've already found. And then if we can go find another 7 breccia pipes out of the 92 targets that we have, and we've been very successful in our hit rate so far, then that's another factor. That's a tripling of what we could potentially have. And then if you go underground on those, you can see where you could even do, you could quadruple. So, those are the kind of, forward-looking ideas we have about resource expansion. In terms of a tier 1 asset, there are different levels for gold and for silver and for copper. And there are exact numbers on that, and I don't have those numbers right at hand, but generally it's thought to be a 6 million ounce gold deposit, a copper deposit that has 5 million tons of contained copper and that type of thing. So it's world-class deposits that the big majors are mining.
The next question is, what is the significance of the collapse zone on your map?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's rumored to be a mining collapse, okay? And there's a story that we've never been able to validate or prove yet, but there is a written summary in a report that describes a mining-related collapse back in the 40s and 50s. We're not sure if it's that. The other idea is the sulfide content in the rock is so high in that zone, and you saw some of the pictures. I mean, we even have zones with massive sulfide. And if you oxidize that top, generally the top 35, 40 meters of the breccia pipes are oxidized. And so all of that sulfide is removed. And what you're left with is the residual iron oxides and the non-sulfide bearing material, which might have only been 20 or 30% of the rock. So you can see if you lose all that volume, then you have a very vuggy, porous rock. And this entire part of the Andes has been glaciated. So you had a thick ice sheet sitting on top of this zone with really buggy textures, and it would be quite easy to imagine that pressing down that zone. So we've had the idea that perhaps it's a natural feature, or perhaps it's a mining related mining collapse.
Then the last question is, when will you need to tap external funding?
Well, it depends on when, how quickly we ramp up. We've got, 3.3 million in the bank right now, and that's plenty to finish off this 15,000 meter drill program. But depending on the rate that we want to bring that forward, then, outside capital would be required. And, we're prepared to go get that. Goldfields is very excited about the project, and we fully expect that they would participate. And we've had a number of other groups express interest, institutional groups, and so yeah, we're looking forward to that because this project is ripe for it, and the permits are in place now, the targets are defined, the discoveries are being made. So this is a great time to really get aggressive on the project.
Well, David, I think that's about all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, Mark. Thank you very much. Take care.